everyone, welcome back. It is the last part of our series, building branching scenarios in Camtasia. If this is your first live session, welcome. We're glad that you're here. I'm Kara North, and I'm joined in the boxes by the incredible Joe Suarez. And we just kind of want to put a cap on everything today. And we're just going to real briefly go through kind of where we've been. And then I'm going to show maybe some other ways that you might want to think about branching. And then Joe is going to talk about the importance of the way that you export it out and push it out. And then if you are here live, if you are either in Crowdcast or watching on YouTube, please comment, say hello, say what you're going to be doing this weekend, whatever, comment. And if you comment, you are going to be entered to win. What are they entered to win, Joe?
A copy of Camtasia.
Yes, and not just a copy of Camtasia, Joe, but they are getting the new Camtasia 2021. So you do have to be here live in order to win. We will grab your name and pop it over, and at the end of the stream, we will give somebody that program, and that's I think a $270 value. So just for hanging out with us today. So we'll just go ahead and kick it back off. So if you remember the beginning of this, kind of where this all came from was back in 2019. I had built a portfolio piece called Will's Trip to Japan, and Will's Trip to Japan was just something I wanted to build to see, can I really do branching in Camtasia? And I found out, yeah, you can do branching in Camtasia. And the main way that I did that is through hotspots and markers and cue points. And so if you remember from kind of previous episodes, what that means is that is something that we put as an overlay on our video. And then what happens, the user will click in those particular hotspots, and then we tell Camtasia where we want those hotspots to take our user. So the timeline on them may look a little weird, but we're only the ones seeing it under the hood. We can kind of control where it goes and direct it. And then if you check the resources, so you can actually check the button below us in Crowdcast, or if you check the description on YouTube, we have a Google document of some starter projects for you. And we have two different ones. We have one about, I think, Earth Day, and then we have another one about, I think, pandemic stuff. I'm just going to say stuff because I don't really think we had a good story to go along with that. And again, just wanted to give you some assets to get you started. Most of those assets actually came from the TechSmith library. So TechSmith does also have a library of assets if you want to get on that. They have a lot of great ones. They've really updated and kept a good amount of new content coming in, which has been wonderful. Really, also, Joe, I think we were both kind of surprised to see those pandemic clips in there, right?
Yeah, that was surprising.
Yeah, I mean, not that I want to think about it, like, but I mean, I can't believe it's kind of been a year now that we've kind of been dealing with this, and there's already clips in there to so we never forget it, right? But and then last episode we did have Alex Mitz join us, and Alex is a voiceover artist and also another TechSmith Camtasia enthusiastic user, and he was dropping some great nuggets because he's actually went through the Camtasia certification. So if you buy Camtasia and you get that maintenance plan, it does come with that additional training to get your Camtasia certification. So again, if you're on the job market, you're looking to break into ID and you buy this product, why on earth would you not just go ahead, get the training and get that certification, right? Because again, that's going to show that you're up to date. And plus, I don't think a lot of people have it for 2021 because 2021 just dropped last week. If you're not if you're on the fence, like I don't know if I want to buy it yet, please get you a free trial. With a free trial, you can actually still render products. Joe's actually going to be talking a lot today about how you export things and what that looks like, and it will have a watermark on it. But I will tell you, as a hiring manager, that's exactly what I want to see. Because if I see a watermark on something like that, it probably means that that's not the intellectual property of a company. So that is exactly what these trials are intended to be used for, is for your education and for you to get comfortable with the product. So I think that, please use that to your full advantage. Joe, did I miss anything?
I think you did a great job covering
Well,
everything that
thank
we're going to
you.
talk about today. And I think it's really cool that we get to give away another copy of Camtasia.
Yeah, I do too. And again, we really appreciate the partnership with TechSmith for just sponsoring this series and just being just great people to work with. I've enjoyed their products for many years, and I know that that is something that I use at work and I use in my personal life, use them for my consulting business. So I just love the ease of it. So again, thank you so much, TechSmith, for sponsoring this and really encouraging us to do this series. So with that, I am going to go ahead. I'm going to share my screen, Joe, and I'm just going to bring in a little thing that I worked on right before this. And let me make it a little bit bigger. All right, so I can link this in the document if folks want it. If you want it, just let me know in the chat, and we can get that linked here. And so basically, what I did here is instead of it being like a conversation, and I feel like a lot of the things that we've showed in this series have been conversations for the hotspots and the branching. I wanted to also encourage you, like, there's a lot of great ways that you can use this for usability and making it a little bit easier for your user to consume your content. So starting off with this, I just brought this in. I just brought in some random thing. In case you don't know, I do really like camels. That's something really random about me. My consulting company is called the Learning Camel. So I just really like camels. I don't have a really good reason why, but I just always have. So I made some assets today around this fake camel milk company, which is actually a real thing, FYI. And so I was imagining, let's say that you have this video. And again, I know it's not the prettiest thing, but it's more utility today. And imagine like this is kind of the start of it, whatever. And then you could actually click these. So I could put hotspots on top of these, and then it would click to that part of the timeline. So that's one way that you may think about with the branching if you wanted to use it in that way. Another way, I'll go ahead and just scoot over here, is like let's say that like you're in a video here, and then you can actually, as the video is going up here, you can go ahead and click on and jump to the next part of the video too. So this is something that I've seen a lot of companies do. There's some videos on YouTube. CNBC has some really nice series where they have kind of a whoops. Okay, that's nice. I don't know what happened there. That's fine. Scoot that down there. That was just rando. Um, never a dull moment. So it's just really interesting that there's a lot of navigation things that you can do with kind of the hotspots through here. So again, if I were to build this out, I would have it click on the different icons, and then it would jump to the part of the video. I've seen it done on the side before. I've seen it done in a lot of videos, and again, I think it's nice to let the user know that they can jump around to kind of get that just-in-time content when they need it. So Joe, any thoughts about using it kind of in a navigational sense?
Um, I think you've covered it. Like it's really cool that we get to add interactivity in Camtasia, and you get to hop around to different points in the video, and those three different ways are how you do it.
All right. Michelle's asking a question in the Crowdcast. What was the name of that website? What website did I mention, Joe? Did I mention a website?
I'm trying to remember. I don't
Michelle, if you'd be
recall.
kind enough to tell me maybe what I was talking about, it might help me remember. Uh, but while we're paused here, we do have some great people in the chat. I want to shout out April, welcome, Gabby, Michelle, who was our Camtasia winner in our first episode, is back. And Michelle, actually, you're going to get some love later in today's episode. Val, thank you so much for being here. Gabby, good to see you. Alex, wonderful, good to see you here. Dorada, always a pleasure. And so, as we're waiting on Michelle to maybe share, I mentioned something like, oh, sorry, CNBC. Sorry, CNBC has these like just series on YouTube about just basically current events, but then they dive in a little bit deeper. So, for example, one that we actually show at work is about the semiconductor, the chip shortage, because that impacts some of the products that my company that I work for manufactures. So there's a nice little CNBC video that we show to share a little bit about the history of how we got here and basically why the auto industry uses a ton of semiconductors now in vehicles. So that was the one that I was was thinking of. And welcome, Hassan. Glad that you are here with us as well. All right, Joe, I'm going to go ahead and drop this and I'm going to let you hop into to your part.
All right. Let me select the right screen to share. You see that? There we go. Okay, folks. So if you've been following with us, you know that we've been going through this Will's Trip to Japan project that Kara had put together previously. So today, what I wanted to do, since we're wrapping things up, is just walk through the different options for when you're done and you're ready to publish everything out and export it out, and talk through all those different things because it can get a little bit confusing. So I actually put together or thought up a nice analogy for everything. Kara doesn't know what this analogy is yet, but I told her even if it doesn't work, she'll like it. And it's because I'm going to use the analogy of my wife's cookies. So my wife actually has a small little business that she does baking cookies. I'm not here to plug it. She's not even like on Instagram or have a website or anything yet. But the reason I want to bring it up is because much like producing a video in Camtasia, the way she bakes cookies is she first creates the product. She gets all her ingredients together. She preps everything, gets the dough ready. She does everything. And then when she's ready, she puts it in the oven. So we can look at Kara's project here as that everything's put together and it's ready to go into the oven. And I now want to talk about all those steps. But first, the analogy actually goes a little bit deeper than that, because once I started to think about it, I'm like, you know what? We can think of this media bin here where we bring in all our assets into Camtasia, all of our images, video, audio, things like that, as kind of like our kitchen counter where we're going to get all our ingredients together, you know, our bags of flour and sugar and carton of eggs and all those kind of things, right? So it's all there ready to prep. And then when we first start working with a project, we can think of the timeline as like our mixing bowl where we're going to put all our ingredients together and start working with them. And then, of course, you know, you create dough and you roll it out, you cut the cookie shapes and you put those onto a cookie sheet and they're ready to bake. So Kara's put together this project here. We've talked about how it adds interactivity with interactive hotspots. And now it's ready to go into the oven, so to speak. So the way we do that in Camtasia is we render things out or we export them. Now, previously, I had Camtasia 2019, and this tab up here said share, which was a little confusing because you could do more than just share. You could create a local file. So I'm glad they renamed that to export. The only problem with that I noticed is they still have in the file menu, they have this other option called export, which does different things. So not to get confused with that, when you're ready to publish out your Camtasia project, this is where you want to go. And you have several options here. And I think what makes this maybe a little confusing is there's some what options and there's some where options, as far as like screencast.com, No Mania, TechSmith video review, which actually is a really cool way to collaboratively review video with other people. Vimeo and YouTube, of course, and Google Drive. Those are where. That's where you can put your video and have them hosted for other people to view. Local file and custom production, those are more of the what, as far as like how you're going to render out your video and the different options that we have there that I'll get into. But while I'm here, there's a few other options I want to talk about, which is produce selection as. So if I were to go down here on the timeline and on the playhead, you'll notice that there's a green shape and a red shape. I can actually click those and drag them out. And what I'm doing now is I'm creating a selection on the timeline. And whatever is selected there or highlighted there is my selection. And now if I go to export, you can see that this produce selection as option is available if I only wanted to create a video with just that highlighted selection. I also have the ability to export a frame as, which would produce a still image for wherever my playhead is at. That could be good if you wanted to create a custom thumbnail. You could either create a specific point in the video, or you could then take that image and add some more stuff to it to make one of those fancy thumbnails like you see people do on YouTube. And you also have the option to export audio only if you wanted to create just an MP3 or like a podcast type option. You could do that as well. You also have the ability, in addition to these existing presets, to create your own, which we'll kind of get into. But if I come up here to export local file, what opens up is this production wizard, where it's going to give me a few different options for how I want to publish out this video. And just like my wife's cookies, they are fine completely on their own. You could bake those, they could come out of the oven, and they are great to eat. I know I've eaten plenty of them, but really the magic happens when my wife puts decorations on top of the cookies, the frosting, and all kinds of other things that she does to magically make cookies look amazing. So same thing with in Camtasia here. We can create just a video file, just an MP4, but the magic really happens, and where we get to add all the interactivity is with the Smart Player. So if I were to come in and try and publish out this Will's Trip to Japan project as just an MP4, and really quickly, so the different options here, 480p would be considered like standard definition, kind of a small, low quality file. 720p is considered HD, and 1080p is HD, or like full HD is somehow what it's referred to as. So the 6 options here are those different video options as just the video file, and then those same 3 options with the Smart Player, where we get to add interactivity. So if I was just to create a video file and I were to try and click next, Camtasia would actually say, hey, following our analogy, it would basically be saying, hey, you're trying to make a cookie without frosting. Are you sure you want to, or decorations, are you sure you want to do that? It's saying you want to create this video, but we see that you've added all these interactive elements. Those won't be in just the video file by itself. Do you want to continue? And I could say yes, and create just that video file. But I'm going to come over here. Instead of local file, I'm going to go to custom production, create a new custom production. It just gives me a few more options. And you can get there that same spot by going to local file and using this custom production settings, and then click next, and you get to the same spot. And going through that just gives me more control and more options over how I want to produce this project. Oh, these are kind of older video file formats. You don't really need to worry too much about those, but interesting to note that you do have the ability to create an animated GIF if you wanted to with Camtasia. So MP4 is kind of the standard for video formats now, so I'll select that. And by default, it will have the controller, which is actually the Smart Player, on by default. I'm going to turn that off for now, and then we'll get back to these settings. Here on the size option, so all these settings here, size, video settings, audio settings, if we're baking, so to speak, you can think of this as kind of like the controls on the oven for how the cookies are going to come out. So different temperatures and length of time that we want things in the oven, that kind of stuff. So for a video, we said that this is going to be 1080p HD, and that's defined by the height of the video. And you might be wondering, okay, so I can create a standard definition video, I create a high definition video. Could I go even higher? Could I go up to 4K? And the answer to that is yes. So if I actually delete that, it tells me I need to enter a height, and I can go all the way up to 496, which is pretty huge. So you can create a pretty big video here in Camtasia if you wanted to, but I'll just stick with 1080. Here in the video settings, you shouldn't have to mess with this too much, unless maybe instead of 30 frames per second, you want a nice smooth 60 frames per second. That will make the file size a little bit bigger. but it can make it smoother if that's what you're going for. But your all the things you add in Camtasia, like shapes and things like that, will be 60 frames per second. But unless the video clips that you're working with are also 60 frames per second, it won't match that. So something to keep in mind. And then here, you really don't need to worry about these too much, except maybe with quality, you want to mess around with this. It's a trade-off between file size and quality that you might want to tweak to get right. But what you'll notice is that if you try to go any higher than 75%, Camtasia even warns you that, you know what, it's not really worth it to go above 75 because you're not going to get much more quality, and it's just going to make your file size even bigger. So best to stick below like 75%. And then audio settings, it's just you get to control the bit rate. So if you're really trying to get a file size down, you could lower that a bit from 128 to maybe 96 or 64. I wouldn't go much lower than that. Definitely nothing lower than 48 because it's going to start to sound like you're having an old telephone conversation at that point. So with those settings figured out, I could click next, and we'll go through the settings on this screen in just a minute. And I could click finish now. On this, it's just saying, what do you want this file name to be called and where do you want to go on your computer? And then down here is an interesting bit because it says, okay, when this gets created, it's going to go to this folder and it's going to create this file. So like we said, we're just creating the one video file, Will's trip to Japan.mp4. And that's not too important now, but now we're going to go back and change our settings to have the smart player, and we'll see how that changes. So now I do want the smart player. I'll check that. And the options that we have there's I think it's a lighter theme, but it doesn't preview it. It's called Dusk and Dawn are our options there. We have the ability to auto hide the controls if we wanted to, or always have them present. And by default, after the video, it will stop and show a replay button. But we do have the option here. We can either loop it again if we wanted to, or we could go to a specific URL, which is handy if you wanted to maybe even extend this choose your own path type thing even further, where you could have this go to different URLs and you could string a series of videos together. So that's an even fourth option there on top of Keras 3 that we talked about previously, where you could really create some branching. Okay, so with the smart player selected, another thing you'll notice is in my size, in addition to the video size like we talked about previously, we now have embed size. And what that means is when we create the smart player, in addition to just the video file that we have all these other files that are created, because essentially what we're doing is we're creating a web page where that video is going to get embedded into. So what this means is on that web page, what's going to be the size of the video? And by default, that's kind of small. I'm just going to leave it at that, but you might have a reason to make it a little bigger. The video and audio settings are the same, but now we have this extra tab options that's enabled with the smart player, and we get to title what that HTML page says. So instead of created by Camtasia 2021, we could call this Will's trip to Japan, of course. And we have some additional options as well if we wanted to. Kind of adjusting the options on the smart player so we can include a table of contents. We can make things searchable even if we wanted to, things like that. We don't have any here, but if we had some quizzes, we could have that option available as well. So now let's take a look at the files that were created. So we have Will's trip to Japan.mp4, the video file that we had earlier, but now we also have all these additional files just to make the smart player happen. So there's some kind of XML file, there's a JavaScript file that goes with that, there's a PNG image, which I'm assuming would be the thumbnail image that's generated for the video. There's Will's trip to Japan.html. That would be the page that we were talking about earlier, where the video is embedded inside of it. And then there's also a player.html that's just for the smart player. And then there's some more CSS and JavaScript files that go with that. So it's kind of important to understand that distinction, that if we're creating just a video file, we're creating one file. But if we want that smart player and we want that interactivity, all these additional files are going to be created. And we're going to have to keep those together when we put it up somewhere on a web server, or dare I say, like SharePoint, if you can't find any place else to put them internally, something like that. And finally, if we wanted to put all of this inside an LMS, we have that option by checking SCORM. So we have to have, wait, let me just double check that. Yeah, we have to have the smart player enabled to have the SCORM option. But when we do, we can check that. And like any kind of authoring tool, when we publish to SCORM, we have the option to include a unique identifier, a title, a description, and the type of SCORM that we're publishing to, 1.2 or 2004. The language. And this is an interesting one because the completion requirement. So in order for it to be a proper SCORM file, it has to have completion criteria associated with it. And you can have that be either all of the video. You can go down to 0% of the video, meaning that as soon as they open it up in the LMS, it will count as completed. So normally you would think, okay, I want them to view the whole video 100%. But in this case, with Will's trip to Japan, remember, it's jumping around on the timeline. And we actually wouldn't want to have the requirement be 100%, because no matter what path they took, they probably won't see all of the video. They'll only see part of it. So if we didn't want them to have it completed right when they opened it, maybe we'll say like 20, 25%, something like that. And then the final option here, when you publish a SCORM, usually the LMS wants that in a nice zip file. So we could say, just give me that. If for some reason we needed those files unzipped, we could say that as well. But by default, it will create both the zipped and unzipped files, which is nice because if for some reason you needed to go in and troubleshoot something or look at the published files, you could do so. So when we say that, now when we look at the files that are published, we have that fully zipped SCORM package as Will's trip to Japan.zip. We have all the files that we had previously, and we have a few more. We have this XML file, which is the manifest for the SCORM that has all the information for the SCORM stuff, and a couple extra files as well in the SCORM package. So that's pretty much publishing everything in a nutshell. I kind of lost track of the cookie analogy, but there is one last step to both a Camtasia project and a batch of cookies, and that is consumption. So you get to view the project, interact with the project, and just like you get to consume my wife's cookies, or at least I do. She knows. And Kara knows as well. She has ordered at least a couple batches of my wife's cookies and can attest to that.
Yeah, I was hoping the cookies didn't get burned in this process, Joe, but it sounds like they didn't.
Yeah, I tried to avoid that.
All right, excellent analogy, and also very, I think, insightful going through, especially going through kind of as you're doing different settings, what file is that creating, and crosswalking those files to why they're important in exporting that project. I think that was tremendously helpful. As you were doing that, we had a couple little things. So I don't think you saw this, so I'm going to put this in here. Our friend Ketzel, of course, has a great think Joe Suarez approved joke here about tough to break in the cookie business if you don't have the dough.
I'll allow it. I'll allow it.
Okay, I think it's perfect. So, Ketzel, always thank you. We appreciate it. Also, want to give a shout out to Instructional Design Tips. Thank you for watching us live. Glad that you can also be here on YouTube. So, Wanzu, I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name, asked this great question here over on Crowdcast, Joe, and I'll toss it to you first about the difference between kind of what we're doing in Camtasia in this series and, say, a scenario template in Storyline. So, maybe talking about when we would use something like this versus when we would build something in Storyline.
So by scenario, I'm assuming we're kind of talking about a branching
I'm
type
assuming so.
interactivity. Yep.
Wanzu, if you want to give more clarifications, chat, please feel free to do so. But that was my assumption, Joe, about just building it in Storyline. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there are some differences that I think need to be taken into consideration. So as we just walked through, when you publish in Camtasia, each project turns into its own web page with its own player, and it's all contained in that one video in that one page. Now, like I showed, you could get creative and create like a series of pages, but it's really all in that one page. Whereas if you create something in Storyline, every time you're branching around, you're essentially jumping around to different pages. So depending on what your scenario is, one might be preferable over the other.
Yeah, I agree. And again, I'm putting it back kind of in, I think, like a work setting. So let's say you work in an organization where you need help with, I don't know, software, and they have these tutorial videos. Imagine having something like something that we're building here in Camtasia to where, you're going through the first step and then it stops like, well, did you try that? Yes or no? Or did that fix your problem? Yes or no? And then it jumps you kind of that next thing versus going through, getting out like a big old user manual, or getting back into the LMS, digging back through maybe that course you built in Storyline and you completed maybe a year ago, and hoping you can get back into it depending on how your LMS is set up. So I think that is the real magic here, is that, I think oftentimes videos are built for consumption, but they're also built for replayability, right? And a lot of times it is a little bit harder to get back into a lot of the storylines depending on how your organization houses them, or whatnot. But, housing a video like this that you're able to, again, go in that repeatability, and it's, again, a little bit more personal for them in the situation. I think that's something really magical. And I also think it's really unexpected. A lot of people just expect to kind of scrub through videos, but if it's something like, hey, wait a second, it's wanting me to interact with it, I think that's something special. All right. Oh, looks like we have another friend. So Luke, welcome. I think Luke is in the UK, so welcome. We appreciate you being here as well. Uh, Another compliment for you, Joe, from ID Tips about the tastiest walkthrough. But see, the sad thing is, ID Tips, you haven't had Joe's wife's cookies, so that's kind of the bad thing about it. So, um, if you are
We'll
just
have to
joining
fix
us,
that.
yes, I know she needs to ship them everywhere. I think that would be cool. If you're just joining us, please, if you're on Crowdcast or YouTube, keep the comments coming, because at the end of the stream today, we are giving away a free copy of Camtasia 2021, courtesy of our friends at TechSmith. So thank you again for the sponsorship. So I think what we're going to do now is we are actually going to show off some work of people that have been part of this series. And specifically, Michelle Shea has just done a tremendous job of building things, working out loud, using some of the techniques that she's picked up in this stream. But I think she's also been influenced by maybe some other folks too. So I'm actually going to show a couple of her things that she has built, and then we're just going to go through it and give her praise, because I think it's absolutely wonderful. And the purpose of this series was we wanted people to work out loud, feel comfortable with experimenting in Camtasia. So we're really, really excited that she shared this. So thank you so much for doing that. And I'm also going to see if I can share the audio with it. All right. So here we go. All right. So the first one here is called the Three Offices. She's got two of them. Oh, we'll totally be kind, Michelle. We're not going to be mean on this. Okay. So this first one here is the 3 office scenarios. Before we get started, Joe, if you come off mute for me, how does she publish this? Do you want to tell our listeners how she published it?
Yeah, I guess, I forgot to go back in and talk through the different options where, I talked about we had some what options and some where options. I forgot to go back in and really talk through the where options. So I can tell by your URL there that she published to screencast.com, which is a TechSmith option for publishing video.
Yes, and I'd say that this is also the Smart Player too. So it looks like it
Yes,
was published with the Smart Player. All right,
that
we'll
as
go
well.
keep going. It's all good. All right. I don't have a cookie clip on that one, Ketzel, but maybe Joe might come up with one and say something during this. All right. So we got a nice little brand at the beginning. Got a nice little intro here of office scenarios. All right.
Chris, welcome to MS Designs.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. I am happy to be here.
How should I ask Chris which pronoun they want to use?
Ooh, wonderful. So I like the use of the robot voices. I think that is absolutely 100% appropriate for anything in a portfolio because, again, that way you don't have to worry about, using someone else's voice or whatever. I do know also, just shameless plug, if you ever want to get popular on LinkedIn, say that you have a voiceover project because you will get hundreds of comments on that post. Maybe I shouldn't say that, but there's that. So you might even be able to partner with a voiceover artist and give them credit, in the future if you want to add something like that in. So we have these 2 characters. So it sounds like it's their first day. Like, how should I address Chris and get Chris's pronouns? And so we have 3 options here. Looks like Michelle did do the hotspot with a text box, which is wonderful. And so I am going to say we're going to ask Chris. Excellent.
Chris, welcome to MS Designs. I am Mr. Smith, he, him.
All right. Great. And then after that, then we get to go to the next scenario, or she did a nice little callback if we want to replay it and see what happens if we make the wrong choice. So I like doing that. So let's go back and see if we can do this. And Joe, which one should I pick?
Boy, put me on the spot. If we're going with wrong, let's use the bottom one.
Okay. All right. We'll go with the bottom one.
Should not make an assumption.
No, you shouldn't. You know what happens when you make an assumption?
Chris, welcome to MS Designs.
I do.
I am Mr. Smith, he, him.
Okay. And what's interesting is when the character introduces himself, he gives his pronouns, but I guess that makes sense. But so again, very nicely done. We have these characters. They're diverse characters. I like that they're different ages, different sizes. I think that's wonderful. The background looks real good. And again, really easy to understand. And again, showing that you can apply this technique in Camtasia, which is wonderful. I'm going to go ahead and go to the next scenario here. I like the cool, calm music too.
Brandon, sweetie, can you help me set up these computers for our training?
Ugh. I really do not like it when Mrs. Smith calls me sweetie. I really wish she would stop.
This is a little true to life for me. I grew up in the South, and so that's very much part of my language. So when I moved to the Midwest, I had to get rid of that really quickly. So I don't call people that stuff anymore. But I think that's a great question. So Joe, what should I pick?
Yeah, and I looked like I was about 12 years old until I think I was in my early 30s, so I got a lot of that as well.
Joe, you still look like you're 12 years old.
Maybe 16 now. Yeah.
Okay.
You know what? I think I've taken enough of this kind of training. I think the correct answer to start with is request they stop.
All right. Let's see
And
what
then
happens.
if they don't, we can escalate to HR.
Okay. Yep.
Working 8 years in HR paid off.
There you
Mrs.
go.
Smith, I do not really like being called sweetie. I understand you call everyone sweetie, but it makes me feel uncomfortable. Thank you for understanding.
Brandon, I am so sorry that I made you feel uncomfortable. I
I'm so sorry,
appreciate all the
sweetie.
help you give me. Thank you for letting me know. I will make sure I no longer call you sweetie.
All right. Excellent. I don't want to see him get angry at this sweet lady, so I'm just going to go to next.
I want to see HR come to her and
All
talk to her
right.
about No, we don't
There
have
it
to, we
is.
don't.
No.
Oh, no, it actually happens.
Yeah.
Hello, Mrs. Smith. Brandon has brought to my attention that you call him sweetie, and that makes him feel uncomfortable.
What? I call everyone sweetie. And Brandon never told me that it made him feel uncomfortable.
Oh.
I appreciate all the help he gives me, and I would never want him to feel uncomfortable around me. I just wish he would have told me so I would no longer call him sweetie.
Very good. But again, I like the use of the characters. I think you picked some great ones here, Michelle, with the backgrounds. Again, I think it looks good, and again, clean, simple design. But sometimes that's the hardest thing to do. So it looks like Michelle's getting a ton of love in the chats, which is great.
Yeah, and honestly, like I thought it was just going to be feedback that, like typical thing, what you see is incorrect feedback that no, you wouldn't go to HR. But the fact that the scenario actually went there and actually showed you what would happen when HR actually talks to her, it really drives home why that answer was incorrect.
I agree. Yeah, and I think that's something that a lot of IDs struggle with, especially new, about the richness of feedback. But remember that feedback can really help cement and give that learner the extra information that they need to kind of make it stick. So yeah, I agree with Joe that the feedback is extremely well done here, Michelle. All right, we'll scoot on over here to our third scenario. And this time I'm going to ask the chat what to pick.
Should I join my department? They invited me, but now they look focused on something. I am new, so I am not sure what to do.
All right, chat. So what should Anthony do? Join him or go back to his desk? So give me a moment and let me know here in the chat on what he should do. Should he join him or go back to his desk?
So I know we have a slight delay between us being live and Crowdcast. So I just want to point out that I have found the ceiling architecture in the past couple images interesting of these office buildings. The last one looked to be some kind of old warehouse, and the one before that, it was like these small arches of brick. That was really interesting. I just couldn't help but notice that.
All right, are you thinking of a new thing to do to your house now, like to change the ceiling?
Oh no, but if I ever take over an old warehouse and turn it into office space, I'll make sure to keep the ceilings intact.
All right, so we do have Natalie says join them. Overwhelmingly in Crowdcast, everyone says join them, and then Ketzel, being Ketzel, that they're sitting a little too close to one another. That is something I think that's an interesting topic to come up. Talk about Ketzel is a lot of this stock art just doesn't reflect today's society, right? And I was always kind of one of those people. I kind of had a personal space bubble anyway, so yeah, something interesting to point out. But all right, so overwhelmingly it says join them. I think everybody actually said join, so let's do it.
Hi team. Thank you for inviting me to join you. What are you working on?
Anthony, thank you for joining us. We are so happy to have you on our team. We are brainstorming some ideas for our new project.
All right, excellent. All right, let's go to the end. Nice. So then we got like a nice little outro. Very well done, Michelle. I mean, really, this is really good. I think that this is a great portfolio piece, and also wanted to say that you got some love over on YouTube. Luke said that the background images were really nice, so kudos there as well. Oh, thank you. I'm a hashtag now, Joe. Does that make me cool?
Depends what the hashtag is.
I'm just teasing. All right. Well, anyway, very well done. Really enjoyed that. And before we give away another copy of Camtasia, I just want to also show Michelle not only did one, she did two projects, you all, two. So she's killing it. So let's look at this one. And this one is a little bit different. It's not scenario based, but I love like the navigation here. So I'll go ahead and show this one as well. Oh, I love this music.
Oh no! A threat detected on my network. What tool do I have to analyze the packets? That's right, Wireshark. Before we begin using Wireshark to analyze the network packets, you need to have a basic understanding of the DoD 4-layer model. Let's see how much you know.
All right. So we have a quiz here, which is really, really cool. She's actually, Michelle's over in Crowdcast saying that, this one was a little bit more difficult. She made it with the quizzes, but let's go ahead and try it out. All right. Joe, do you know the DoD model? Can you throw me a bone here?
The
Any
seconds.
that? Anybody know? Michelle, you want to throw us a bone, or you want us to try and guess? Right, as we're waiting for some feedback here, ID Tips says again, Michelle, to your testament here that it's great seeing more dialogue instead of kind of lorem ipsum. Again, I've been guilty of that too, building out portfolio pieces with lorem ipsum in it before. But again, some kudos there, and looks like Luke is also wanting to try out the branching in Camtasia as well. So, all right, got the answer, Joe. It's number 3. So let's try it out. Excellent. And I like that we have the feedback up here too. All right. What about the second question? True or false? What do we think?
I think false, but I will reserve judgment.
Okay. I'll wait till I get the experts here either in the chat. Maybe give us the answer.
Yeah, so this is a good example of quizzing in Camtasia. We didn't really get into it too much, so it's really cool that she made this example for us.
Yeah. So Michelle says true. All right. Excellent. All right. Yep, exactly. And so then it will keep track of your correct and incorrect. We'll go to continue here. All right. This is what I wanted to show you. So imagine, again, you're going back to this as an employee and just need a, I don't know, refresher here on the Wireshark. You could click this, and then I think it would, I'm just going to guess here. Yeah, that's what happens when I guess. You get more information, I think. I don't know my stuff, apparently, which shouldn't surprise anybody. But anyway, you get the gist here of you get the information. You can take the little quiz on it and go from there. So again, Michelle, really, really well done. Thank you so much for sharing these out and building these along with this series. And I'm just thrilled that you took what you won here and was already able to use it. So I'm just really excited about that.
Yeah, great job.
Yeah. All right, everyone give Michelle some kudos in the chat. And then with that, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen. Joe, do you know what time it is?
Uh-oh. Is it giveaway time?
It is. It is giveaway time. Luke, thank you so much for giving Michelle kudos as well. All right, so it is giveaway time. I am going to go ahead and share my screen, and I've been trying to keep track of everybody who has commented. So give me one. Go ahead.
It's also Bib nap time. I can see he's laying down.
Oh, yeah.
Laying down on his pillow.
Yeah, I know, Bib. Bib Fortuna, my cat behind me. All right. Okay, so hopefully everybody can see that. Joe, do you want to count me down to when to start?
Okay, 3, 2, 1, go.
Here we go. Good luck, everyone. Congratulations, April. You have won Camtasia 2021. So to get it, just reach out either to Joe or me, and we can get you the information so that way you can download it. So congratulations.
Very cool.
Yep.
Congrats to April.
All right. Well, with that, I think that's all we got. At least that's all I have. Joe, do you have any kind of parting words of wisdom or any challenges you want to lay down or any more cookie analogies?
I'll just say, this whole session has been great, and thanks to Kara for inviting me to co-host, and thank you, of course, to Camtasia for allowing us to do this and having the 2 giveaways. Congrats to both Michelle and April for getting the copies. Michelle, awesome work on your stuff. Keep at it, and to everyone else, like we've been saying, go out and get that free trial. If you've downloaded a trial previously, Camtasia 2021 just came out last week, so you can probably go get another one of the newer version. Mess around with it. Take the training that's out on TechSmith Academy, and consider signing or getting that maintenance plan, I think it's called. So when there's a new update, you get it without having to pay for it, and you also get access to that training that we were talking about earlier. So lots of cool stuff. It's been really cool hosting this with Kara, and I'm kind of rambling, so I'll leave it at that.
You're fine. I just wanted to give a shout out. I think this is the very first super chat or sticker I've ever gotten on YouTube. So thank you, ID Tips, for that. That's really amazing. That's the very first one. So thank you
Awesome.
so much for that. That's pretty awesm. So
And
thank you.
And it's in pounds, so you get a little
Yeah, that's true.
conversion rate to US dollars. A little bump.
Yeah,
But,
so
thank you so much.
yeah, thank you. We really appreciate it. It's been fun doing this series with my friend and just again wanting to show just the versatility of a tool like TechSmith Camtasia. Believe me, I know how expensive a lot of these ID tools are. I think that you really get a lot of value with a product like TechSmith Camtasia. And that's why I wanted to show all the cool things that it can do. So again, if you came to this series late or you want to go back, there are so many TechSmith Camtasia videos on my YouTube channel, Unfiltered ID. They're also on Joe's channel. E-Learning Out Loud is Joe's channel, so you can visit Joe's channel as well to get info. But all of the recordings of this series is on my channel. I have a playlist for them. You can even go back to previous sessions as well. I have a ton of assets for you, scripts to get you started, all of the things. So, I really want to support and advocate for emerging ID professionals. I've had a lot of help along the way. Joe has as well. And so we just really believe in paying it forward and trying to help grow the profession and make sure everybody is supported. So, with that, we have one last person here. So I know who this person is. My friend Sean from my PhD program, who apparently loves Saul Goodman. So,
I was gonna say, I guess I know who that is too. That's
yeah.
Saul.
Yep, better. Yep, it's all good, man. Right? Okay. All right. With that, thank you all so much. We really appreciate it. Please connect with us on social media if you want to connect with us. Stay in touch. But again, and also let us know what you think of the series. I think all feedback is good. We'll take the good, the bad, and the ugly. And if this is something you'd like us to maybe continue or do again in the future with other platforms, I've thought about that as well. There's some other really cool tools out there that might be fun to highlight and play with. So just let us know. But with that, thank you so much. Have a great weekend to all mothers out there. Happy Mother's Day for tomorrow. And we'll see you online. So again, congratulations, April. Reach out to us and we'll make sure that you get Camtasia 2021. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a good one. Bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye.